Most gardeners do not understand there's some key components to making sure that you include when planting newly planted fruit and citrus trees. You see, the most important step in a tree's life is in its beginning stages, its infancy stages. It doesn't matter if that tree is 2 or 3 years old when it comes from the main grower, because it begins that cycle again when you take it out of a container it could have possibly been in for more than a year, root bound, pot bound, whichever way you want to twist and turn it. The bottom line is once you take that tree out of that container and introduce it to your backyard garden, your tree is going through another stage of infancy. It's now being disturbed, the soil is being pushed around. You're possibly going to have to take a pair of pruners and aid in the process of clipping off the roots just to make sure there's, you know, an optimum environment prepared for the planting of your fruit and citrus tree. But many gardeners, if not all, fail to realize that in the beginning processes, there are some steps you need to take. Let's go over them right now. Number one, your goal is to make sure the tree get established as quick as possible. Now, we do know that it takes about a year for most trees to get established, whether it be in the ground or whether it be in a container. But truth be told, it still needs to take in some consideration to the establishment part. What do I mean by that? You ever placed a tree in its new home and within a month or two you see new life spring forth, new shoots, new leaves, new branches, blooms? Well, that's because the tree does establish itself a little bit just to settle in the new home, the new soil, the environment. You see, the environment is conducive to growth. Think about that for a second. What do I do? Let me share with you what I do. Not what you do, but what I do. And why I'm so successful at making sure I grow plants, both citrus and fruit trees, swiftly, very tall, and very wide, at a rapid rate. Now, there are some downsides to growing trees this fast, and I'll share that with you at the end of this commentary. I'm going to share with you right now before I go over and show you the actual product that I use. And many of you have heard me say this since the rooftop terrace. Molasses. Why is molasses so important? I'll tell you why in a second. We know that mycorrhizae, and we know that rock dust, azomite, is important nutrients, micronutrients for the soil biology. I like to consider it the soul of the ground. What we don't realize is that when we plant those trees with the worm castings, remember, worm castings should always be in all of your containers. As much as you can afford, truth be told, if you can simply take a huge bag of worm castings and dump it in your container, I'm all for it. The more worm castings, the better. In fact, the worms like regurgitating their own poop. Don't ask me why. That's just the nature of worms. But it also attracts a lot of beneficial bacteria. Fungi. You've heard of that, right? So, I introduce you folks to a product since the rooftop terrace. And I've always told you folks about this product. And it's called chelated iron or chelated iron. Potato, potato, whichever way you want to spin it. That's your pronunciation. I get your drift. I know exactly what you're talking about. So I hope you understand what I'm talking about. Chelated iron is a wonderful product. It provides iron, manganese, and copper to your trees. What people don't know is they don't look at the fine label and it says molasses. Molasses are very important. Let me tell you why. Molasses provide nutrients to the microbes in the soil. The new microbes, yes, new microbe, not old microbes. By providing microbes to the soil, well, you get this activity that starts to happen. You ever heard of that symbiotic activity between soil and plants and humans? Well, there's a symbiotic activity and relationship between the nutrients and the plant's roots. The first thing we think of, or the first thing that comes to at least my mind, is mycelium. And what is mycelium? How does it exactly work? What does it do, and what is its main purpose? Well, the mycelium is basically like human resources is to a major company. It solves the issues. If there's a discrepancy, it's going to act as the middle person. Play devil advocacy. That's what mycelium does. So when you hit it with molasses, mycelium loves it. And so it goes to work. Why? Because now we're looking at those microbes are now starting to be activated. And look at my fingers right now. This is exactly what mycelium looks like under a microscope. Are you seeing this? It's like tentacles. And it starts reaching out. And they get longer. And they start reaching out towards the roots of your plants, of your trees. So you can imagine with molasses does something that azomite and mycorrhizae will never be able to do. Well, you ever took a fat kid, no pun intended, and given him something sweet? Hell, you ever took a regular kid and give them something sweet? Too much sugar and they're like a lawnmower going around? Well, when you feed molasses to the soul, aka the soil of your plants, what happens is that molasses is like giving your plant steroids, sugar water, and it goes nuts. Mycelium loves sweet and loves sugar. You didn't know that, did you? So these little tentacles here start to expand and they become longer tentacles. And when they can reach up and grab your roots, the roots are like, oh, stimulation. It's like a massage. I like that. What happens when you break down a muscle through a massage? Okay? You're breaking down the fascia. And what happens is the muscle starts to expand the cell wall through a process called microplasia. Now, I know all this information may go over some of you head, but I'm a former pro bodybuilder, and I've done a lot of lifting in my heydays. And I know nutrition. With my eyes closed, it doesn't matter. I know this stuff. And I'm showing you how everything is linked. Let's get over. I'm going to show you how to use molasses. We're not talking about store-bought syrup. We're not talking about molasses you find in a bottle. I see a lot of you a few years back that tried this product, and you're not even a product. You tried it, and it didn't work out for you because you're using molasses with preservatives. Let me show you what you need to stick with. And then I got to take a Nagami kumquat out of a wooden box and place it in a 40-gallon container. I'm going to show you how you prepare that tree to make sure it's going to be in the optimum environment and is going to have a chance at establishing itself, yet alone surviving, especially during this time of year, fall. Let's get right to it. Now right here I have a 5-gallon bucket of water. Now this water is really not warm, but a little bit more than warm, but not hot where it scorches your hand. The heat is very important because you're gonna want to break this down as much as possible. Now inside this bucket here, I have 5 gallons of molasses. Now this is not your standard molasses from any store. This is agricultural molasses. Let's get a closer look at this, and I'll show you what the grains and the makeup actually look like. There you are. This is agricultural molasses, and it's absolutely wonderful. It's very important you use this. Now, where do you get this? Some nurseries may carry it. Big box stores will never carry it. But you know who do? You go to your local hydroponic store and they have a huge 50-pound bag of the agricultural molasses. This is what you want. Let me show you how to use it. So we're going to put that back here. Now this is roughly 5 gallons. With the exceptions, it's not filled to the top. This is a 4 cup, whatever you want to call it. We're going to take this, and what we're going to do is do a 3-to-5 ratio, or a 5-to-3 ratio. 5 gallons of water, 3 cups of molasses. Now you may find yourself having to break this down here because you got chunks, and that's okay. I don't really care about it. It's going to break down anyways. A little bit more here. A little bit more. Yeah. Here's 3 cups of molasses right here. I'm going to pour it in here just like so. That's it. You've heard it here first. You're going to take your molasses and you're going to go ahead and work it in. And don't go crazy with it, just stir it and stir it. And it'll break down. And that's the goal here. You want to break it down. When you break it down, you're going to get a solution that looks murky like this. Now, once again, once we break this down, we're going to then go over and we're going to start planting the tree in its new home. And I'm going to show you how to establish your trees very fast, especially at this time of year. So what we're going to be doing here is it's time to move this Nagami kumquat to a 40-gallon container. Now I know the first question you're going to ask, why would you move it from its location? Didn't you build those boxes for your trees? When it comes to my citrus trees, that's exactly what I did. I wanted a few of them to stay in the ground, but the rest of them, I put them in the ground so I can help establish the tree, the root system. Well, I've done that. Go back to my fig video and you'll notice that's exactly what I did to establish my figs. It went from a 2-foot tall stick to a 14-foot tall tree at 7 feet spread. I know what I'm doing. Watch and learn. The first thing I want to do is I want to retrieve all of this mulch. I'm going to take this dripper here and I'm going to move it to the side. The goal here is to retrieve all of this mulch. One of the things you want to do is don't put your shovel right up here. You want to put your shovel as about a good foot away from the tree because you never know how far the root system has pushed itself out. Okay? And work your way around the tree gently. There's the tree. You could see the root system have started to develop. But I was able to get to this tree because had I done this at a year or maybe even 2 years, this tree would have been difficult to not only get out, but you'll do a lot more damage when it comes to stress. So now you want to go in here and loosen up the soil. What you're doing is getting off of the bark that broken down over time. Then you're going to go ahead and tilt this over on the side. Remove the stake and look in here. You'll see there's a huge root ball here of mess. That's not going to harm the tree. I'm going to show you better than I can tell you. There we are. Now what I'm going to do is just loosen it up because I want these roots to know that they can come on out and reach even deeper. Now we're going to give the tree a good look, and this is going to be my front side here. I'm going to now take it over. Where it's going to go. Now the next thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to remove some soil in order to make a ditch to place my new plant. Let's go ahead and do this. Perfect. This is perfect. So what we want to do now, go ahead and get some rock dust in here, azomite. Don't worry, be liberal. Because after all, you're looking for an established tree. Get some mycorrhiza. I'm going to sprinkle it in the hole. We're going to use a little bit more than normal because we're looking to help this tree out. We'll use the rest of it for the top of the root ball. Now what we need to do is go ahead and get in here and set our tree. Once again, we're going to see which area is the front. This is the front part. There we are. Now, here's the trick. Don't worry about adding any more soil right now, because if you dug that ditch right, you can use the soil around it to backfill it. And that'll keep it in place. Then I'm going to take my trusty mallet, because now I want to get rid of any air pockets. At this time, you want to go ahead and add just some fertilizer. let's take a quick note. I see a lot of you that don't know how much fertilizer to feed your tree. Let me remind you, on the back you'll see that the direction calls for your citrus trees 1 cup of fertilizer to the soil around the planting holes, okay, for newly planted trees. So although this tree was already planted over there, it's now considered a newly planted tree again because I'm placing it in a new environment. So 1 cup, okay, and you want to feed your trees 6 to 8 weeks later. That's roughly a month and a half because you got plenty of nutrients in the soil, especially the azalea soil mix and whatnot. This is half a cup here. So you notice earlier I used 1 cup in the hole. Now I'm going to use the other half around the hole. It's quite simple. We don't want to artificially feed our trees by sprinkling a little bit and doing a guessing game. No guessing games here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to mix this up. Really work it in about 2 to 3 inches down. And I apologize today, I don't have my microphone on, so if I'm yelling, I apologize in advance. Okay, we're going to water this in. We're not going to feed it the molasses yet because you don't want to feed it the molasses and all of a sudden, now you water it and the molasses comes straight out of the container. So let's go ahead and feed this one. You'll notice that I haven't put a stake or made sure my tree is straight yet. When I wet the soil becomes more stable so that the tree can hold this position. Just watch and see. So this method helps get rid of the air bubbles and air pockets. That's what this does. I then repeat the process and take my mallet again. You'll notice how much the soil has receded. Now I can go ahead, clean it up on the sides. Let that go ahead and drain out, and then I'll go ahead and add my mulch. And for those who, again, want to know what type of mulch I use live micro bark right here. made by Greenall. It breaks down and provides nutrients over time. Now we're going to get a little closer to the soil area. Now I can start feeding it molasses. Now you remember this container here. This is 4 cups. 12 of these equal 1 gallon, approximately. I'm now going to go ahead and take this in here. I'm also going to go on the other side. You see, folks, there's literally nothing to it. But if you take the time to do extensive research, these are some of the few things that you can do to help your tree not only become established, but help them grow fast, really fast. I hope you folks heard that. Want to know something else? Agricultural molasses. That's what you need. Make no mistake about it. On camera, it may seem longer, 31 minutes to be exact. Wow, that's a long video. Don't get me wrong, I'll break it down through the editing process. By the time you see it, it'll be much simpler. Well, the Ngami Kumquat is now its new home. It has all the nutrients to help it, move along and become established. Remember, I planted, I watered, but Yah gives the increase. That increase is promised to me because I sow righteous seeds. If you like this content, try it. Try agricultural molasses. Again, you can pick it up at your local hydroponic store. They got it there guaranteed. Other than that, if you like this content, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. You'll get one heck of an experience. Then again, some of you may not like it.